Hey YouTube, Joyboy here. So today I want to talk about awakening. And so it's funny, I saw someone talking about awakening on Oro Jackson, and then remembered throughout my entire 200 plus videos about One Piece, I have never once done a single theory specifically talking about awakening. And probably this is the case because my thoughts are shared by many others. However, I do think that I have at least one thing to add that may be something you have never heard before. And I think it a decent idea just to put an awakening video on my channel just to express my opinions about awakening, so that maybe for discussion purposes / so you know what my thoughts are. So anyway guys, let's jump into it and let's start off here. For those of you out there who may not know what the hell I'm talking about, awakening is essentially the next level of unlocking a Devil Fruit's powers. This was essentially revealed to us by Doflamingo, who has an awakened Paramecia type Devil Fruit. This is what Doflamingo tells us. Devil Fruits can do way more than that. There's a whole new world of possibilities after the awakening. And when your powers have awakened, it doesn't only affect you, but the things around you as well. And then, obviously after this point in time, Doflamingo creates a world of strings. But Devil Fruit Awakenings have been discussed at length everywhere there is a One Piece community, and we've all come to a consensus that Doflamingo's definition for awakening cannot apply to all Devil Fruits. Specifically, Zone types for sure cannot fit the mold. We've actually seen awakened zones from the jailers in Impel Down, and the benefits of awakening for them seems to be that they gain more physical strength and durability, and also have a higher recovery rate, while also perhaps being just larger. But for sure, the koala jailer is unable to transform his surroundings into more koalas. But if they do end up having this power, you will not hear me complain about it. And so perhaps another example of how a zone is awakened is actually observed through Chopper, potentially. This is a very popular theory, one that I highly subscribe to. Haven't mentioned because there's been people talking about it already, but we know that Chopper invented the Rumble Ball, and this is actually a really unique and awesome creation that I think is actually incredibly significant. And so before the time skip, he would take one Rumble Ball and it would allow him to alter his zone transformations. However, if he took too many of them, he would turn into a giant monster. And of course, the Rumble Ball is affecting his Devil Fruit abilities, so theoretically, any zone type user would be able to do the same thing as Chopper. They would have the ability to transform into some kind of monster, but we don't actually see this occur very often. So the first step of the Rumble Ball seems to be able to give Chopper greater control over his Devil Fruit ability. He alters his forms. This is something that we've actually seen before. Kaku, specifically from CP9, sort of experimented with the many different forms that he could take using his Giraffe Devil Fruit. The main thing that is unique is Monster Point. So put simply, the Rumble Balls give Chopper greater control over his Devil Fruit, and by taking too many of them, it allowed him to prematurely unlock, theoretically, his awakened zone powers, which before the time skip he was unable to master. And if you're looking for some decent comparison to Monster Point in the entire story, the only applicable comparison would be the jailers from Impel Down. Chopper gets larger, he gets stronger, presumably his durability increases, and we're not sure exactly, but it probably also increases his recovery rate. So this is pretty much what people expect, or how people expect all zone type Devil Fruits to awaken, and it's very different from Doflamingo's awakening. But beyond zone type Devil Fruits, there's also other kinds of Devil Fruits, Paramecia type specifically, which also don't seem like it's possible for them to awaken exactly like Doflamingo describes awakening to be like. There's a lot of examples that you could potentially use, but I'll use Bluno from CP9, who has the Door Fruit. He's able to create doors out of sort of thin air, and then open them to travel to new locations. It wouldn't really make sense for him to transform his environment into just one giant door. So this is kind of where you come in with the theories about awakening, how various Devil Fruits will awaken, etc. And the hottest topic among all of these is how Luffy may inevitably awaken, and guys, for sure, Luffy at some point in the story will awaken his rubber Devil Fruit. And so we'll focus primarily on Paramecia type devil fruits. But before we get into that, let's just talk briefly about Logia devil fruits and sort of, for both of these really, how these powers are as simply as possible defined. So what makes a Logia type devil fruit a Logia and not some other kind of devil fruit is the way that the powers work. Essentially, the user becomes whatever the fruit is, as well as they are able to produce whatever the fruit is as well, whatever element or substance. So their body is modified to the substance as well as they are able to produce it. This is why Magellan from Impel Down and Treble from the Don Quixote Doflamingo Pirates have Paramecia type devil fruits and not Logia. While they may seem like Logia to the casual observer, they are simply able to produce the substance. Their bodies are in no way modified. So Magellan can only produce poison, his body does not become poison. Same thing with Treble. Treble can only produce mucus, not music, and he does not become mucus. And so this kind of gets into why Logia are considered to be superior devil fruit than Paramecia types. Paramecia types mostly, in the vast majority of cases, do not have two varying effects. While Logia types change the user's body and they're able to produce it, usually Paramecia types either focus on one of these or the other. And also, such as in the case of Crocodile, they're also, at least sometimes, able to manipulate the natural substance that exists in the world as well. So the vast majority of Paramecia type devil fruits simply alter the user's body. Whether their body becomes rubber, becomes smooth, they can change their weight, whether they get spiked or they can chop themselves up, or they become blades or weapons or wheels, or they can become invisible, etc. As used in the previous examples of Treble and Magellan as well, some Paramecia types are able to produce some sort of substance. There's also a type that does not produce or become anything, but rather they're able to manipulate something. Something like Pika's devil fruit, where he's able to essentially manipulate the stone in Dressrosa. And on this same note, a very specific and common variant of this is the kind that can alter the physics of the world in some way. So examples of this would be something like Fujitori's Gravity devil fruit, Captain Kid's Magnetism, Shiki has the Float fruit, as well as Whitebeard had the Earthquake fruit. And lastly, we have some examples of a Paramecia type devil fruit being only able to specifically affect others. This would be like Boa Hancock's Love fruit, she can turn other people into stone. And Sugar's Hobby no Mi, which she's able to turn others into toys. It's interesting that in both of these cases, this particular kind of Paramecia type devil fruit is very rare, and Oda specifically put limitations on their ability to use them. Like for instance, the people who Boa Hancock turned into stone, they had to feel some kind of lust for her, and Sugar specifically had to touch her victims. But don't get me wrong, the classes are not limited to this. You have several subclasses, like for instance, several devil fruits allow the user to enter another dimension completely, like Blueno's Door fruit, Capone's Castle fruit, as well as Brulee's Mirror devil fruit. But what's interesting about these particular devil fruits is that they can actually also fit in other classes, like for instance, Capone's fruit could be considered body modification with an awesome side perk. And to be honest with you, I don't really want to touch at all the devil fruits that relate to life itself, such as Big Mom's Soul fruit, Moria's Shadow fruit, and Jewelry Bonnie's sort of age-related devil fruit. And actually, these devil fruits and a few others could fit in multiple categories. And guys, I honestly suspect this may be due to the fact that these fruits were actually awakened. And one I didn't mention, but there are some that specifically affect other objects in various ways. So this is sort of how Oda is limited about creating powers. The power can affect you, the power can affect someone else, you can create something, you can manipulate something, or you can affect the world around you in some way. So now let's specifically talk about Luffy. And so the most easiest guess you can possibly make about how Luffy will awaken his devil fruit is simply following what Doflamingo said would happen, which is Doflamingo said the world would get transformed into your devil fruit. If Luffy awakens his devil fruit, then he could transform the world around him into rubber. But what if rubber does not awaken in this way? What if it's more like Zoan type fruits? This is another common theory that Luffy will instead be able to improve and increase the properties of rubber itself. Essentially, Luffy would become more rubbery. And fun fact, we've already seen what would happen if Luffy actually did improve the quality or the rubberiness of his rubber, which is geared forth actually using Haki in combination with putting air inside of his muscles. It increases Luffy's elasticity and essentially makes him stronger and faster. And so these two ideas here are the most persuasive, but additional ideas based on how other Paramecia type devil fruits work is the possibility Luffy would actually be able to produce rubber. I don't think that this is particularly likely, but it is, I guess, possible. And really the last possibility is that Luffy would in some way be able to manipulate rubber. So if he was in a rubber room, he could then manipulate the rubber in any way that he saw fit. So which is it? Which one do I subscribe to? Let me draw your attention again to Doflamingo's awakened devil fruit powers. There's something actually incredibly interesting about his abilities once his devil fruit awakened. He can transform the earth around him into strings. This is essentially alchemy. He's transmutated or changed the actual nature of the world. And I want to ask you the question, is there any other Paramecia type devil fruit which can do this? And the answer to that is no. Well, no with an asterisk, because Boa Hancock's and Sugar's fruit can actually change the nature of other humans. However, they're unable to change the nature of the world. And we're going to put another asterisk here because there are several Paramecia type, or at least two Paramecia type devil fruits, which sort of do this, but not really. I'm looking at Senor Pink and Diamante, which Senor Pink has the swimming devil fruit, and essentially he can swim through everything. When he swims through something like the ground, it changes the consistency and physical nature of the ground where he currently is. However, he does not change the ground into a completely different material, more of just like the solid state of it. And Diamante's power is very similar. So anyway, the point that I want to get home here is that for some reason, based on the 80 plus Paramecia type devil fruits that Oda has created, not a single one is actually able to convert the world around you from one material into another. I find this to be very, very significant. I think Oda created this power with the intention for it to be used exclusively for devil fruit awakenings. And so it's kind of hard to define a devil fruit, but based on the lackluster definitions that we have, it essentially, you eat a devil fruit and you become the essence, the spirit itself of whatever that devil fruit power is. So if you are eating the Ito Ito no Mi, you become a string man. It changes your very nature to that of strings. And so apparently through awakening, Doflamingo is able to grant this change in essence to his surroundings. I honestly believe that this is the version of awakening for any Paramecia or any devil fruit in general, which is some kind of actual substance. I think the reasons that Zoan type devil fruits do not awaken in this way is because you cannot actually transform the world into a creature or a person or a living organism. And I think the same rule would apply to devil fruits, which grant you control over or powers over something intangible. And so for this, Captain Kidd could not turn his surroundings into magnetism itself. But it is possible for him to be able to change the nature of something so that it can become magnetized or be affected by magnetic forces. But ignoring some really cool possibilities, I think it could just be very much simpler than this. Let's look at someone like Whitebeard. Whitebeard, having the strongest Paramecia devil fruit in the world, being considered the strongest man, should have awakened his devil fruit. At this point in the story when Whitebeard was introduced, awakening had already been introduced, so we should assume that Oda gave Whitebeard an awakened devil fruit. So how exactly could it possibly be awakened? And it's very simple. Oda made the abilities of the Gura Gura no Mi that much stronger once it awakened. The very same philosophy he used for Zoan types. And so this leads into what I believe to be the two abilities, improved capabilities of awakened devil fruits and awakened devil fruit users. For all devil fruits which actually produce or are comprised of an actual physical substance, then they are able to grant their own devil fruit abilities to the world around them, as well as they will be able to improve the qualities of the substances that they produce or they are comprised of or that they manipulate. And so guys, while it isn't entirely clear or obvious or foreshadowed in any way that Doflamingo's strings were somehow improved once he used his awakening ability, I wonder this, which is that if Doflamingo truly awakened his Devil Fruit, why, if it actually improved his strings, why would he ever not use that? You ever wonder how you can go from just plain strings to indestructible strings that Doflamingo uses? Perhaps this is because Doflamingo had awakened his Devil Fruit. And this same awakening would apply to Devil Fruits which are not tangible. However, if you cannot transform your world into whatever you are, then you will only get one of these benefits, the improved capabilities and or control over your Devil Fruit ability. Now, so how would this exactly impact Luffy's awakening? Well then, I'm basically suggesting that when Luffy awakens his Devil Fruit, he will be able to transform his surroundings into rubber, as well as improve the quality of that rubber, such as so he is faster and stronger. Or in literal terms, more elastic and therefore more bouncy. And so I feel like a lot of people get caught up in the idea that Luffy can transform his surroundings into rubber and essentially just speculate that Luffy then will attack like a Bellamy does, essentially bounce around the world various places, increasing his speed until he makes contact, and I really think that Oda will take this a lot further. Remember this, when Doflamingo awakened his Devil Fruit and transformed the world into strings, Doflamingo was able to manipulate those strings. This is almost always true when somebody produces something, they're able to manipulate it. Think like Pika's Devil Fruit. Pika can manipulate the stone around him. I think it's very safe to assume that if Luffy transforms the world into rubber, he'll be able to manipulate it. Can you imagine the Gomu Gomu no Mi Gatling done from the surroundings of the world? And also, Luffy's fists could be giant. And as we saw recently in the story, Luffy used clones to sort of disguise himself, but if he could manipulate rubber and he could make rubber appear all around in the world, then he could essentially create clones of himself as well. Or if he needs that extra boost for an attack, all he needs to do is manipulate the rubber around him to projectile him or fling him into his opponent to create more damage. Luffy could even go so far as to create a giant version of himself made purely out of the rubber and the world around him, while similar to Pika, he just lies within there. A lot of people are wondering how exactly Luffy would fight Kaido. Kaido, by the way, is giant. You're looking for a way to make giant Luffy, this would be a way. But of course, these are just my ideas, and undoubtedly Oda's imagination will be far superior to anything I could possibly conceive. Now guys, undoubtedly you'll find Devil Fruits which perhaps don't fit with what I've said here, or you can't see how, and it would require some sort of explanation. We're just going to ignore all of the random Devil Fruits which are maybe difficult to explain and just focus on the generalities. And before I end this, just to clarify a little bit, for Logia type Devil Fruits, I imagine them to have the same kind of awakening as Paramecia types, which produce or control some kind of substance. So for instance, for Sabo's Fire Fruit, his fire would become hotter, as well as he could transform the earth around him into fire. A lot of people use this in the example of Punk Hazard, of the fight of Aokiji versus Akainu, that both of them are actually awakened Logia type Devil Fruit users, and the reason why the island is split in half into fire and ice is they literally change the earth itself into magma, which then eventually hardened into earth again, and ice. But anyway guys, that's all I really want to talk about today. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree and why. Share your thoughts. Like the video if you liked the video. Dislike the video if you disliked the video. Subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always guys, have a wonderful day.